This channel has covered a lot of the world's most powerful militaries and how they might compare against one another on the global stage, but a topic that's a bit more underrated is which militaries across the world lie at the other end of the spectrum for a whole multitude of reasons. This is Life's Biggest Questions, and today we're going to be counting down the top 10 countries with the worst militaries in the world. Coming in at number 10, we have the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Made up of over 700 tiny islands in the Atlantic Ocean north of Cuba and southeast of Florida, the Bahamas is actually one of the richest countries in the Americas, trailing behind only the United States and Canada. Despite this, the Bahamas actually have no full military of their own, instead relying entirely on their small navy. Consisting of only 11 sea vessels and 3 aircraft, the majority of military operations have to be coordinated with aid from international partners and mainly involve dealing with the Atlantic Ocean's drug trade as opposed to any attempts at military expansion. At number 9, we've got to go with North Korea. Now, while many entries on this list will be dealing with countries with either very small budgets or very small amounts of military personnel, North Korea obviously doesn't quite fit that bill. The downside to their military is more due to the malnutrition and general unhealthiness of those forced into military service. While Kim Jong-un may attempt to portray himself as a godlike leader that has the complete dedication of his followers, the reality is not quite as grand, and means that North Korea's danger is more in its bold rocket attempts rather than a highly trained fighting force. Coming in at number 8, we have the country of Bhutan in South Asia, a landlocked nation that manages to have 10% of its population technically part of their military reserves, but lacks the resources or weaponry to take advantage of this fact. The Royal Bhutan Army only owns 2 aircraft in total, neither of which are bombers or fighter craft, while all of their actual military training is done in joint exercises with India. And while this allied relationship with India does prove beneficial and keep Bhutan protected, the country would be in an incredibly difficult spot if India ever backed out of any defense agreements. At number 7, we have St. Kitts and Nevis, the smallest sovereign state in the entire Western Hemisphere. A tiny nation made up of 2 islands, St. Kitts and Nevis only have a combined total of 300 military personnel between them, and most of their armored weaponry being supplied directly from the United Kingdom and Belgium's outdated stockpile. In fact, the country didn't even have a functioning offshore coast guard until the United States donated a single patrol ship to St. Kitts' stockpile. Luckily, the small size of this nation means that even with such weak defenses, they haven't had much trouble from outside sources. Coming in at number 6, we have the Mongolian Armed Forces. While Genghis Khan may have ruled over one of the largest empires of all time during the 13th century, Mongolia's military ambitions have differed drastically in modern times. After breaking away from China at the start of the 20th century, Mongolia became a satellite state for the Soviet Union during the Cold War. Because of this, while Mongolia may have an acceptably large military for its sparsely populated region, many of its weapons, armored vehicles, and technology come from abandoned Soviet outposts and gifts after their dissolving at the end of the Cold War. Outdated Russian tech isn't the worst thing in the world to be stuck with, but given their former glory on the world stage, Mongolia unfortunately earns a spot on this list. At number 5, we have the Luxembourg Army, a military that's incredibly small, but in this unique situation, it's kind of acceptable for them. Luxembourg is a landlocked country that's entirely surrounded by the nations of Belgium, Germany, and France, and thus has no navy and an air fleet of only 17 planes. With a civilian-controlled military of only 400 active members, Luxembourg's military strategy is based on remaining friendly with its much larger and well-armed neighbors, allowing them to protect their borders, which, given how surrounded the country is geographically, it kinda makes sense. Who needs lots of defenses when someone would have to conquer all of Belgium to even get to you? Coming in at number 4, we have the military of the Central African Republic. A hotly contested region that is no stranger to civil wars and coups, the Central African Republic has a mere 4,500 members in its military trying to maintain the peace. With multiple investigations being done into the military's corruption and the possibility of human rights violations, the country is currently relying on help from the United Nations to try and keep its many volatile situations in check and bring democratic freedoms back to the country. At number 3, we have the nation of Iceland, which holds the unique title of being the only member of NATO without a standing army. While Iceland and its population of 370,000 do have a small coast guard consisting of 3 ships and 4 aircraft, the country otherwise relies entirely on pacts with its NATO allies, particularly the United States, for its defense. There are also a multitude of agreements with countries such as Norway and Denmark for more local affairs, but other than the occasional expansion of its police force, Iceland relies entirely on other nations for military matters. Hey, if you've got friends, might as well get them to help. Coming in at number 2, we have the country of Monaco. Very similar to Iceland, Monaco has nearly no military to call its own, just 250 non-conscripted individuals that make up the public service of Monaco and who primarily focus on defending the coast. For all other matters, Monaco relies nearly entirely on France and various pacts with their military to also defend Monaco during any hostile situations that may arise in Europe. The only reason that Monaco gets a bit higher on this list is Monaco's overall wealth and vast amount of tourist income. You would think that this would lead to more spending on their own military, but hey, if France is gonna pick up the bill, I guess Monaco doesn't want to complain. And finally, coming in at our number 1 spot, we have the military of Tuvalu, or should I say, the police force of Tuvalu, because this nation's actual military literally doesn't exist. An island country located halfway between Hawaii and Australia in the Pacific Ocean, Tuvalu has a military budget of literal 0 and relies entirely on its police force to deal with any matters normally taken care of by the military in other countries across the world. With a mere 2 ships allocated to the country for their coast guard, Tuvalu may seem like it's asking to be seen as weak on the global stage. But having been a member of the United Nations since the year 2000, perhaps Tuvalu's decision not to spend money on military expansion isn't the worst idea after all. That might be all for today's video, but if you enjoyed this countdown, why not hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and be sure to let us know in the comments what sort of videos you'd like to see from us next on the channel. As always, I've been Josh Busker, and this has been Life's Biggest Questions.